There are many ways to control a population. One of them is to confuse them profoundly about the root naming, description and categorization of their emotions. So we have this word anger, and it's used for two completely different areas. So we have one that is pure aggression, violence, abuse against another. And we have another one which is objection to bad occurring. Both are big. Now, if you want to control a population, you outlaw both. You use one term for two completely opposite things. But because they're both big, both powerful, people somehow accept it. I'm going to use some examples. Anger, one of the most outlawed emotions, certainly in Britain, in the so-called civilized world. The interesting thing is, anger is a very complex and enormous area, but the way we're taught it is that anger is aggression and hostility. However, anger is the explosive energy of someone who cannot take some terrible behavior from elsewhere, from outside anymore. It is where frustration escapes into free flow expression of large quantities of energy. Now, that doesn't mean it is hurting someone else. It doesn't mean that person will physically hurt them. It does mean a discharge of energy. So there is active hostility aggression, and that is usually physical. It can also be verbal, directed at a person. And then there is anger, which is shaking off something terrible and alerting others to something we must pay attention to, something important, something vitally important that threatens everyone else's well-being and safety, that we need to stop what we're doing and pay attention to. Now, those two things are never, ever spoken about in any of the literature. It is fascinating. People actually still say you can stop somebody in the middle of that expression of energy. Now, I don't know if you've ever been where someone cannot take it anymore because someone else is being so abhorrent, but you can't stop them. What you can do is help them breathe as they release that energy. You can help them get away from the source, which is triggering them into that emotional release, which is goading them into that emotional release, which is abhorrently behaving so that that is the only resulting action. But if you have someone who is aggressively hostile with what we typically call anger, that person could be hit with a water cannon, get everyone else away from that person, cover them in something. In other words, that person needs to be removed from harming others. Do you see there are two totally different circumstances here? One could attack the others. The other one is expressing utter abhorrent distaste for what is happening. So if a woman sees a child being hurt, that is natural and absolutely right that that person should be furiously angry. It is an abhorrent practice to which their soul in its core is objecting. If someone is kicking a dog, similar thing. You would have a fury, wouldn't you? If someone else is so frustrated with the awfulness of their life, with the awfulness of their feeling, overwhelmed by darker energy, overwhelmed by fourth dimensional entities, very little access to the beautiful qualities of love from their spirit, then their anger is going to be aggressive and hostile. And you have to find a way of, just like a flame out of control, pouring water on it. It is interesting that we really don't talk about these things. This summer, we need to know. We need to know the difference. Sometimes the term righteous indignation is used, righteous anger for the first one, the injuries to a child. Whereas the aggression, hostility is what we're seeing on the streets of Britain right now, with these imported for Agenda 2030 illegal immigrants, certainly not women and children, but young, aggressive, hostile jihadists, openly, happily, willingly, without any provocation, attacking young women all over the country. So we have to understand what these emotions are and actually invent a new label. We can't call them both anger. Okay, try righteous anger and anger. Try frustration and anger, because the state where that energy is released, either in open aggression, hostility, physical attack, or in a furious rampage of energy evacuating the mouth in an attempt to stop the bad thing, both places are large qualities of energy emanating or exiting from the human being. We do need to understand more of this.
They told you forever so long. Well, I'm here to tell you it's all just a lie. You're really my love, the lead make you cry. I'm eccentric and odd, some would say strange. I live my life beyond the hearing range. Well, I love to be free and I live to explore. You're my reflection standing there at the door. It's a shame